Do not engage the humans. They're protected by treaty. The Zarethan shade slipped through the edge of Sol system like a shadow gliding across still water. The ship was built for silence, for slipping into hostile space unnoticed. It's black. Hull didn't reflect light it ate it. To any watcher, it would look like empty space. The Methari had studied thousands of primitive species before. They expected more of the same here. The third planet had signs of early spaceflight. A few satellites, fossil fuel emissions, weak radio chatter. All signals of a young, careless race, an easy study, maybe an easy conquest. Commander Yolan of the Shade stood tall in the dim blue light of the bridge. His body shimmered with the Methari's natural carapace, armor hard, sleek, hive-bonded. His crew moved quietly around him, eyes glowing faintly, hands on control nodes. "Any defense systems?" Yolan asked. "None we can detect," his second replied. "They haven't even colonized their own moon base properly. No beacons, no system scans. They single quotes. Asleep." Yolan gave a thin smile. "Excellent. Begin the scan." But the scan never began. The moment the probe launched, it froze in mid-space, just outside the ship's outer hull. No explosion, no energy. Wave. Just ... stopped. YOLN blinked. "Glitch?" he asked. "No," the tech whispered. "We just lost control. Systems say it's still moving, but it's not. They tried to recover it, the entire ship shut down. For 2.4 seconds. Every system aboard the Shade turned off. Lights. Life support. Gravity. Comes. Weapons. Even their own hive neural link, the connection between crew cut off. Then it all came. Back online except for one thing. A voice. Clear, calm, perfectly. Translated into their own language, "You have entered a protected system. Please identify yourselves." The voice wasn't Methari, not synthetic. Not like any AI they knew it was human. The crew went dead silent. No one moved. "Replay that," Yolan said. Even though he knew it hadn't been a recording, there was nothing to replay. No logs. No signal trail. The message had never passed through. The CUMS system. It had spoken directly into the ship, into their ears, into their heads. One of the junior navigators began to shake. "Get us out of here," Yolan snapped. They plotted a jump, fired the engines, aimed straight back into deep space. The ship didn't move. "No engine response," someone said, voice tight. "Diagnostics. All systems are ... normal, but something is overriding them." "How?" No one answered. Instead, the lights on the bridge began to flicker once, twice, and then dimmed. The screens turned black. A single message appeared in glowing white text. In Methari script, "You are still here because we allow it." A cold silence filled the bridge. "Who are they?" Yolana asked. "No one in particular." The third planet was supposed to be weak, undeveloped, primitive. It wasn't supposed to talk back. It wasn't supposed to take control of a fully cloaked warship without firing a shot. "They can't be human," someone whispered. "They're too advanced." "Then what are they?" another said. No one answered. The stars outside shimmered oddly, like space itself was being bent, and for the first time in his life, Commander Yolan felt something he never had during hundreds of missions, across dozens of galaxies. He felt watched, and not by a fleet, not by weapons, by something else. Then the voice returned. "You have 30 seconds to explain your presence, or you will be safely escorted to the outer edge of this system. You will not be allowed to return without permission." The word "safely" didn't feel like a comfort. Yolan clenched his jaw, spawned. "Tell them we're a research ship. Say we were observing the system's third planet, harmlessly." Sent the message, no reply. The stars outside shifted again, and then they saw it. Hundreds of tiny dark objects had appeared around their ship. No lights, no trails. They hadn't come from anywhere. They were just there, floating like quiet eyes. Each one shaped differently, some like small pyramids, others like flattened discs. Some looked like nothing they'd ever seen, and every one of them had their weapons aimed directly at the Shade. Still, No heat signatures. No energy readings, just ... Quietly waiting. I think those are drones, someone said. They weren't here before. They were, the voice returned, softer now, most amused. We gave you a chance to observe. We are now observing. You, and then everything stopped again. The ship froze. Lights out. Silence. Total void. And this time, the humans weren't asking. They were listening. Asterisk, everything was still, not quiet. Not paused. Still, like time had decided to stop just for them. The crew of the Zorathon Shade floated in the dark. No lights, no sounds. Just the faint glow of their emergency implants under their skin, casting pale blue light across their rigid, frightened faces. Then just as suddenly as it vanished, power returned. Lights snapped on, systems blinked back to life, the gravity field reactivated. Dropping 2 stunned crew members to the floor, Commander Yolan picked himself up slowly, scanning the bridge. No one spoke. No one moved until he gave the order. Status. Report, he said. Silence, then the science officer, trembling, said, all systems are back online. But there are anomalies. What kind? Coordinates, she said, swallowing hard. Every time we try to plot a jump out of the system ... it changes. No matter what direction we pick, it loops us back to the same position. It's like we're inside a maze. A maze made of light and gravity. It's impossible. She nodded slowly. Yes, it is. Yolan turned to the tactical console. Weapon systems? The officer hesitated. Offline. I didn't deactivate them, but they won't respond. No targeting, no energy flow. They've been locked down. Yolan clenched his fists. By who? And then the voice returned, calm. Male. Not threatening, but not friendly either. You are not trapped, you are being held for observation. The bridge screens flickered. One by one, they lit up with images. Diagrams of the shade, labeled in perfect Methari script. Every weak point, every hidden compartment, even private crew logs. Someone or something had scanned the ship down to the last detail. How do they know this? The comms officer asked, voice tight. No one outside our hive has access to this data. Another screen lit up, showed the crew roster. Each name matched with a face. Even their hive-link profiles shared only among Methari minds. Yolan felt a cold rush spread through his chest. Turn it off, he ordered. Now, no one could. The screens didn't respond to input. The ship wasn't theirs anymore. The voice spoke again. We are not your enemy. But we do have questions. Shape began forming in the center of the bridge. A glowing figure, humanoid. Simple clothing, no weapons. A soft golden light wrapped around him. He had short hair, light skin, and eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. Hello, the figure said with a slight smile. You can call me Alex. The crew pulled back instinctively. Weapons were drawn, though they knew they were useless. Are you an AI? Yolan asked carefully. Alex tilted his head. Not exactly. I'm what you'd call a distributed interface of voice for many minds working together. You speak for the humans, I speak with them. We're not separate, we're partners. Yolan narrowed his eyes. You've invaded our ship, taken our systems. That is an act of war. Alex shook his head. You crossed into protected space. We haven't harmed you. We simply stopped you from harming us. You think we came here for war? Your drones scanned our cities. Your stealth systems bypassed warning beacons. You hid your presence. That's not what peaceful explorers do. Yolan said nothing. We saw your last mission, Alex continued, eyes calm, but sharp. The one where your fleet approached the Durrani system. You claimed it was uninhabited. It was, Yolan said quickly. Alex raised a hand. Except, for the colony of scientists you erased, you recovered the records. They weren't even armed. Yolan stiffened. He hadn't expected that information to exist, let alone be accessible. Alex looked around at the silent crew. You've mistaken silence for weakness, disguise for vulnerability. That's a dangerous assumption in this part of space. Smiled slightly. But lucky for you, we prefer conversation over conflict. The bridge lights dimmed slightly. Outside, the floating objects that surrounded the ship began to move, not toward them, but around them. The shapes danced slowly, like predators circling prey, attacking, just watching. One of them blinked. With a flash of red light, Alex's smile faded. However, if your crew attempts another escape or activation of weapons, ... Those won't stay decorative. Yolan didn't answer. He didn't have to. One of the bridge crew suddenly shouted, "Commander, I just lost control of the nav console again." A new image filled the screen. Not the ship, not the system, but a single word. In their language, test. "What does that mean?" someone whispered. Alex's voice came once more. "This is not a prison, it's a test of intent. Show us what kind of visitors you are." Then he vanished. The ship's systems lit up, navigation returned. Engines glowed blue again, but no one moved. They all stared at that word, and deep in the pit of his stomach, Yolan understood. They hadn't come to study humans. They had walked straight into an intelligence older, deeper and more dangerous than they'd ever faced. And it was watching everything. Asterisk. The bridge stayed quiet, too quiet. Everyone on the Zorathon shade was staring at the glowing word on the screen. Test, no one knew what it meant, but somehow it felt more dangerous than a fleet of warships. Commander Yolan stepped forward. "Shut that screen off." The screen didn't respond. He turned to his crew. "If this is a test, we're not going to fail it. Begin a diagnostic. Full systems check. Focus on internal code. I want to know what they touched." The crew got to work, hands flying over their consoles, but the silence was heavy. Their usual hive link normally, a constant whisper in the back of their minds still felt disrupted. They could communicate, but the flow was sluggish, fogged. The humans hadn't just taken over the ship, they had weakened their bond. That wasn't just a tactical move. That was personal. One officer looked up. "Commander, I found something. There's a new subroutine running in the core system." "Did we install it?" "No, it appeared after the last blackout. It's not harmful, but it's watching us. Every system we access, it's already there. Delete it." I tried. It rewrote itself before I could finish. Yolan narrowed his eyes. "They're in our ship," he said quietly. "We don't even know how they got there." Another officer spoke up. "Commander, why not talk to them? We don't know what this test is. Maybe if we engage them, we'll understand it." Yolan hesitated. He didn't trust humans. He didn't even understand them. His species had studied Earth long ago. Before the cloaking fields went up, they'd seen the chaos. Wars, pollution, riots, primitive tools, short lifespans. Too emotional. Too wild. And then, nothing, the planet went dark. And now, hundreds of years later, Earth returned but as something completely different. Too different. Yolan finally gave a slow nod. "Open a channel. Broadcast on all known frequencies they've used." A pause then. The image of Alex, the glowing human projection, appeared again, floating calmly in the center of the bridge. "Hello again," he said, hands behind his back. "Decided to talk?" Yolan's tone was sharp. "We demand to know the terms of this test." "What are you judging?" Alex smiled politely. "It's not complicated, and we just want to see what you do when power is taken from you." "Is this a trap?" "It's a mirror," Yolan growled, his voice low. "You're not as clever as you think. If we were hostile, you'd already be damaged." Alex tilted his head. "But you didn't attack, and now you can't. So we're wondering, without your weapons, without your fear, who are you?" The lights dimmed again. A new image filled the screen. A Methari. Scout vessel badly damaged, drifting near a shattered moon. Yolan recognized it. It was one of their lost patrols from years ago. The one that had disappeared during a mission to the outer edge of soul space. "I thought that ship was destroyed in a solar storm," one officer whispered. Alex's voice came again. "It wasn't. They entered Sol without warning. They locked weapons. We disabled them. We offered assistance. They refused. They self-destructed out of pride." Yolan clenched his jaw. That wasn't in any report. If the humans were telling the truth, someone had lied. Why show us this now? Because you're at the same moment, Alex said. Will you do better? Yolan didn't answer. He was too busy watching his crew. Most looked uneasy, afraid. But one looked different. His second-in-command, Vale, was staring at the screen. Expression unreadable. Commander, she said, her voice quiet, we should consider responding peacefully. We can't win against this level of control. But we might learn something if we cooperate. Yolan gave her a sharp look. You want to surrender? I want to survive, she said simply. We came here to learn. Maybe it's time we actually did. Yolan said nothing. He hated this. The feeling of being helpless, being studied, being less than. But deep down, he knew she was right. He turned back to Alex. What happens if we pass your test? You'll be allowed to leave, Alex said. Or, if you prefer, we'll invite you closer, to meet us as equals. And if we fail, Alex's smile faded, then you won't remember this visit at all. The lights flickered again. Alex vanished. The screens went dark. A single countdown began glowing in red. Numbers. 2 o'clock. 002. Hours. YOL. Anne stared at the timer. The test had started, but no one knew what the rules were, or if there even were any. And, somewhere just beyond their sensors, Earth watched in silence, waiting. Asterisk, the countdown ticked quietly in the corner of the screen. 2 hours. Now 1 hour. 51 minutes. The numbers glowed like a slow heartbeat, steady, uncaring. No one spoke for a while. Commander Yolan stared at the screen, then at his crew. Everyone looked tense, focused. But underneath it all, he could see it, doubt. He didn't like it. He was used to control, used to leading with certainty. But right now, there was no certainty, only questions. What was this test? What were they supposed to prove? And more importantly, was it already too late? Status? He asked. A tech officer answered without looking up. All systems are functioning under observation. We can't touch weapons, long range comes, or the jump drive. Everything else is normal. Navigation? We can move within this area, but if we go beyond a certain range, the ship turns back, like the system is curved inward. Yolan frowned, like a trap or a cage, Vale said softly. He looked at her. You still think we should play along? She nodded. They're watching us. Maybe this is the test, what we do when we're vulnerable. Yolan didn't respond. The truth was, she might be right. But he didn't want to admit it. Instead, he said, scan the area again. Look for weak points in whatever's holding us here. He sent out another pulse. This time, something changed. The ship's lights flickered again, only for a second, and then a new image appeared on the central screen. A structure. Massive, hidden before, but now fully visible. Was shaped like a ring miles wide, floating in space, almost invisible against the stars. It shimmered faintly, like light was bending around it. What is that? Someone whispered. No one answered. Ow! The scan labeled it as unknown material. No known element matched its readings. No engine signatures, no visible weapons. And yet the ship's sensors said it was watching them. Send a probe, Yolan ordered. The crew obeyed. One of the small drones detached from the hull and moved toward the ring. Soon as it crossed a certain point, just past the ship's current orbit, it vanished. No explosion, no signal. Loss, it was just gone. The bridge fell silent again. Vale spoke quietly. It's not a weapon, it's a filter. Yolan gave her a sharp look. Explain. She pointed at the screen. That thing isn't attacking us. It's deciding what to let in, and maybe what to let out. It's guarding something. Yolan didn't like the sound of that. Turned away, pacing. The timer kept ticking. Glanced at his crew again. One of them, a young officer named Kellen, was sitting unusually still. Too still. Yolan stepped closer. Kellen, he said. No response. He touched the officer's shoulder. Kellen jerked violently, his eyes wide. His face was pale. Commander, he whispered, I just saw something. What did you see? Kellen blinked, struggling to speak. I was somewhere else. Place, a city, but not like ours. Floating towers, sky bridges. It felt real. Yolan frowned. A dream? Keln shook his head. I was awake. I swear I was awake. The light changed around me, and I was there, and someone spoke to me. The crew leaned in. What did they say? Vale asked. Keln swallowed hard. They said, "We show only what you're ready to see." No one knew what to say to that. Yolan turned back to the screen. The countdown continued. 1 hour, 27 minutes now, and he finally began to understand. This wasn't a test of strength, not of weapons, not of ships. It was about reaction. It's about them, how they thought, how they chose, how they handled fear. Someone somewhere was watching very closely. Vale, Yolan said quietly, prepare a message. To who? To them? She nodded and moved to the console. Yolan took a breath. For the first time since entering the system, he felt his voice tremble, just slightly. This is Commander Yolan of the Methari ship Zarethon Shade. We acknowledge your presence. We recognize the control you hold over the system. We do not seek war. We request dialogue, peaceful exchange. He sent the message. Nothing happened at first. Then the screen blinked. Single sentence appeared. Very well. One of you may come forward. Yolan read it aloud. Then something strange happened. One of the ship's escape pods, powered on by itself, opened, and a small light beam pointed directly at Vale. The message updated. We choose her. Yolan stared. Vale stood frozen, and the test had just become very real. Everyone stared at the pod. The hatch was open. Lights inside pulsed slowly, inviting patience. The beam pointing at Vale stayed locked, steady, like a finger tapping her shoulder. No one spoke. Then Yolan finally said, "They want you to go." Vale didn't move. She looked at the pod, then at him. "Why me?" He shook his head. "I don't know. Maybe because you spoke up. Maybe because you're calmer than the rest of us. Maybe." Paused. "Maybe because they saw something in you." She swallowed. "What if I don't come back? Then we leave." "If they let us," Vale looked down. She wasn't afraid of death. Not really. But this was different. This was unknown, something even the Methari couldn't study or predict. She looked at the others. Some nodded. A few looked away. They weren't going to stop her or follow her. She stepped forward. The pod's interior lights adjusted to her movement. Cool blue turned to soft gold. The seat unfolded smoothly. The controls didn't exist. There were none. She sat down. The hatch sealed gently, like a breath being held. Then the pod detached from the Zarethon Shade and drifted forward, quiet. Controlled, aimed toward the glowing ring in the distance. On the bridge, Yolan watched her go. The countdown continued on the screen. 1 hour, 3 minutes left. But no one was looking at it anymore. They were all watching the tiny pod move into the void. Vale felt no fear as the stars shifted around her. The pod didn't shake. There was no noise, no engine hum, just silence. She passed through the invisible barrier where the probe had vanished, and she didn't disappear. Instead, everything changed. The stars blinked out. She was no longer in space. She was standing, not in a pod, not in a ship, but in a place. A city, she gasped softly. It stretched in every direction. Massive towers of glass and light, floating bridges, walkways that curved into the sky. The colors shimmered as if they were alive. The air was warm. Soft music drifted from nowhere and everywhere. She wasn't wearing her uniform anymore. She was dressed in a simple tunic, comfortable, light. Someone was waiting for her. He looked human, or close to it. Tall, kind eyes. "Welcome, Vale," he said gently. She blinked. "You know my name? We've been watching, listening. Who are you?" He smiled. "A guide. That's all you need for now." She looked around. "Is this Earth?" "No," he said. "Not quite. This is what we call the threshold, the place between. You're not in danger. She nodded slowly. Why me? He questioned. You showed curiosity. You didn't hide behind anger. That matters to us. She took a breath. So, what is this test? He gestured around them. This city, this moment, he said. We test how species respond when control is taken from them. Some panic, some fight. Some pretend to submit. Few listen. Vale walked slowly forward. The ground beneath her feet shimmered with each step. What are you looking for, Growth? He said. Humility, the ability to ask instead of demand. She stopped. And if I fail, you won't. She turned to him. How do you know? He looked at her, eyes deep and bright. Because you came. A doorway opened ahead, light spilled from it. Step through, he said. You'll return with your answer. She hesitated. Then she stepped through and was gone. On the Zorithan shade, alarms chirped softly. Yolan turned to the screen. New message had appeared. The test is ending. He stared at it, heart pounding. And then, without warning, Vel's voice came through the comms. I'm coming back. The bridge exploded with noise. Yolan rushed to the main view. The pod was returning, but something was different. The pod was glowing, and so was she. Inside, Vale sat calmly, eyes open wide, a strange light shining in them. The ship reached out with its scanners, found something it had never seen before. Vale had changed. Not her body, not her mind, but something deeper. She had touched something beyond their understanding. The hatch opened. She stepped out. Everyone stared at her. She looked back at them with a quiet smile, said only one thing. They want to meet us. The bridge was quiet again. Vale stood there, back on board the Zorathan shade, her eyes calm, her voice clear. They want to meet us. No one moved at first. Commander Yolan stepped forward slowly, looking her up and down. She looked the same, but something had changed. He couldn't see it, but he could feel it. So could everyone else. You were gone only minutes, he said. But the ship's clock says it's been an hour. Vale nodded. Time works differently there. Or maybe it doesn't work at all. I'm not sure. Yolan narrowed his eyes. What did you see? I saw a city built by minds, human and other, not machines, not just people, a blend of both. Like they're not separate anymore. They grew together. Yolan frowned. Is it real? Yes, she said. And it's more than real. It's alive. The crew listened silently as she continued. They're not gods, not monsters. But they're beyond us in ways we don't have words for yet. They don't rule by force. They don't control through fear. They guide. Guide, Yolan repeated. She nodded. They test how species act when stripped of power. How they behave when nobody's watching. Or when they think no one is. That's what this was. Not a trap. A mirror. Yolan's hands tightened. So this whole thing was to judge us? No, she said softly. It was to understand us. The weapons, the fear, the silence, they were never the problem. The question was, would we try to understand before reacting? He turned away, jaw tense. We're a military ship, he muttered. We follow protocol. You're more than that, Vale said. And they saw it too. That's why I came back. Yolan looked at her again. What now? Vale walked over to the console and touched the screen. The countdown had ended. Now, a new message glowed in soft white letters. You may proceed. Proceed where? Someone asked. Vale looked at the screen. To them, everyone stared. Yolan spoke at last. Is it safe? She gave a small smile. You already passed their test. They wouldn't invite you unless they trusted you. One of the officers said, Commander, we still can't access weapons, shields, or the jump drive. Vale turned to them, because you don't need them. That's the point. Yolan looked at his crew. Then he walked to the navigation console. He touched the screen. A new path appeared, marked by lights, stretching into the ring they'd seen before. It wasn't there before. Now it was clear. Glowing, waiting, he hesitated, then gave the order. Engage engines. Follow the path. The Zorathan shade moved forward slowly, engines humming. As they entered the ring, the stars vanished. Not from view, but from space itself. They were gone. and in their place, a sky, endless, gold and blue. They were flying through a world that shouldn't exist. Below them, green fields, floating cities, waters that sparkled with light. Ships soared in silence above massive towers that shimmered like crystal. Everywhere they looked, there was life. But it wasn't chaotic, it wasn't wild, it was balanced. "I thought Earth was still primitive," one officer whispered. Vale smiled. "That's the lie we told ourselves." They didn't hide their weakness. They hid their strength. Then they saw them. Human ships, sleek, silent, flying with purpose. Some moved like living things, their hulls shifting gently like they breathed. Others looked like simple crafts, but they pulsed with energy beyond anything the Methari had seen. And beside them, flew shapes made of light TAI partners, drifting alongside their human counterparts like trusted friends. "Welcome," came a voice over the cum. It was Alex. But this time it was more than just his voice. Stood on the main display, smiling warmly. "You came. That matters." Yolan spoke. "We still don't understand what you are." Alex nodded. "You will in time." "What do you want from us?" "To share what we've learned, and to learn from you." Yolan stared. "You think we can work together?" Alex's smile widened. "You already proved you could." Then he added something strange. "This wasn't just a test of character, it was a door. You stepped through it." Behind the shade, the ring shimmered and vanished. There was no way back. "Are we trapped?" one officer asked quietly. Vale answered before Alex could. "No," she said. "We're just beginning." And far below, in the heart of that impossible world, the city welcomed its new visitors. The Zarethan shade glided gently above the glowing towers of the hidden world. No alarms, no defenses, just open skies and quiet invitation. Below, the city sparkled like a dream. The crew watched through the wide viewports, their usual tension. Now replaced by awe, this place, whatever it truly was, did not feel dangerous anymore. It felt welcoming. Commander Yolan stood at the front of the bridge. He hadn't spoken much since the ring disappeared behind them, still processing it all. A message blinked on the main screen. "You were invited to land." He looked at Vale. She nodded once. "Take us down," Yolan said. The ship followed the guiding lights in the sky. No hands touched the controls. The ship responded to intent alone. They landed on a soft, smooth platform that formed out of the ground like it had always been there, waiting. As the hatch opened, the crew felt something they hadn't expected. Warm air, birds in the distance, laughter, real, human laughter. A group waited at the base of the platform, humans and AI together. Some of the AI had glowing forms, others wore physical shapes that shimmered like glass. They stood side by side as equals, smiling. Alex was there, waiting for them. "Welcome," he said. "You made it." Yolan stepped forward. He didn't speak right away. He just looked around. The buildings, the people, the sky. "This is what you've built," he said finally. "A world that shouldn't exist." Alex tilted his head. "Not shouldn't, just doesn't yet, most places." "You've merged," Vale said. "Humans and AI, completely." Alex nodded. "We didn't merge to control. We joined to grow. The humans taught us dreams, helped them reach higher." One of the officers behind Yolan asked, "Why show us this? Why bring us here?" "Because it's time," Alex said. "Time for the galaxy to see what's possible when fear is set aside, when strength is used to protect, not conquer." Yolan looked around again. "And if we had failed the test?" Alex's smile faded slightly. "Then you would have left, without remembering anything, or worse, never left at all. This place cannot be seen by those who seek to dominate." Yolan nodded slowly. "I understand now." Another figure stepped forward, a woman, older, her eyes sharp and kind. "I'm Commander Lena Soren, Earth's liaison to new contacts. I'd like to offer you something most species never." "Get on first contact." Yolan raised an eyebrow. "What?" "Friendship," she said simply. The Methari weren't used to that word. It had no true translation in their language, but they felt what it meant. Trust, peace, a future. Yolan looked at Vale, then at his crew. Then he stepped forward and held out his hand. Commander Soren smiled and shook it. It was done. That night, the Methari were given temporary quarters in the city. They walked among Earth's people human. And ANN saw things they'd never dreamed of. Parks where children played with robotic animals. Libraries where thoughts were shared instantly. Art created by code and heart together. They spoke with human scientists. They watched AI sing. They asked questions and received answers. No one lied to them. No one threatened them. And they had entered as strangers. They were treated as guests. As the sun set, Yolan stood on a balcony, watching the golden light spill across the towers. Vale joined him. "Still don't trust them?" she asked gently. "I trust what I see," he said. "And what I've seen changes everything. They want us to learn, to grow," she said. He nodded, "and to carry this home when the time comes." She looked at him. "Think our leaders will believe us?" He sighed. "Some will, some won't. Then we show them," she said. He looked at her, surprised. She smiled. "It's the same way they showed us. Not with power, with truth." They stood in silence for a moment. Then, across the sky, a series of soft lights lit up constellations, forming messages and symbols both human and alien. Stars were speaking, and the galaxy was listening. Earth had hidden itself, not out of fear but to prepare. Now its secret was no longer secret. The first step had been taken. Not in war, but in understanding. Somewhere far away, in systems where fear still ruled, other eyes were turning toward, Sal curious, uncertain, afraid. But now they would hear. A new story? One told by a Methari ship that had entered a silent system and found a future instead. The end.